Everyone, it's Alexis Hasselberger here, time management and productivity coach. And today I want to talk about something that is probably a big problem for you. It's a big problem for a lot of people. And it is the fact that meetings are just taking over our lives. Now, before COVID, before we were all working from home, we still had a lot of meetings. Nobody ever felt great about a day full of back-to-back meetings. But now we're just scheduling all of our live communication. Even if we just need to talk to someone for 5 minutes, we're not picking up the phone, we are scheduling a meeting. And so if you feel like your days are just overrun by meetings, you're looking at your calendar and it's just, back to back to back to back, or it looks like a kind of Swiss cheesy calendar because you've just got holes here and there with maybe 30 minutes between meetings, etc. I want to give you some actionable strategies that you can use to help reduce the meetings on your calendar so that you can have more time for deep work. So how do we make more time for deep work within our schedules? So one of these things that we can do is to limit informational meetings. So this is our status update meetings, it's the company update meeting, it's all of these meetings where we're just doling out information. Now, you might not have 100% control over this, and that's okay, but I bet you could suggest something to someone, or maybe you have a little bit more influence than you think. So if instead of having info-only meetings, we can go ahead and have those meetings via email, right? It's like we're not having a meeting, we're just sending out the information via email, via Slack, via some other way so that people can consume that information when they want to, when it makes sense for them on their own time, instead of having to get everyone all in a room, all in the same place. Another thing that we can do is to reduce the default length of meetings. So why do we default to 30 minutes or an hour for our meetings? Well, it's typically because that's what our calendars are defaulting to. But we don't have to stick to that default. We can say that we want to say, if it was going to be an hour, let's reduce it to 45 minutes. I bet we can cover the same amount in 45 minutes. We'll give ourselves a little bit of buffer time to get to that next meeting, or we'll just build some more time back in our day. Or, if you're doing shorter meetings, like let's say you're already at a 30-minute meeting, could you do it in 25? Could you do it in 20 minutes? There's this law called Parkinsons Law, and it is that work expands to fill the time allotted. And it's really true of meetings too. If we schedule an hour-long meeting, most likely we're going to meet for an hour, even if we finish the content early. All right. Another thing that we can do is to just consider all of those recurring meetings on our calendars, right? Like we have a lot of meetings that are happening week after week after week, and not all of them are necessary, right? Some of them are, in fact, status update weekly recurring meetings. And so we just want to take a look at the recurring meetings on our schedule and say, do these really need to be here? If they're not useful to you, can we cancel them altogether and just do ad hoc meetings where we need to? If they are useful some of the time, but not all of the time, could we reduce the frequency? Could we say take a weekly meeting and make it twice a month or once a month instead? So really think about that. Again, you might not have control completely over this, but you could talk to the people that do. I bet everyone's in the same boat of wanting to get more time back in their schedules. One trick for you, and this is something that I use with many of my clients, is to start tracking your meeting effectiveness. And so what this means is that, after you go to a meeting, especially a recurring meeting, just change the color on your calendar if that meeting wasn't useful, like change it to gray or something. It'll be your secret code that you can use. And then after a couple of weeks of doing this, you can look back at your calendar and you can see, oh, I have this meeting every week, but it's only valuable one time out of 4. Maybe I could use this as an opportunity to talk to whoever the meeting is with to see if we can reduce the schedule. So you can try to track it in that way. Another thing you can do if you really don't have a whole lot of control over reducing the meetings on your calendar is to just consolidate that. So a lot of times, we look at our calendar and it's just, 1 hour meeting, 30-minute block of time, 1 hour meeting. It just looks like Swiss cheese, the whole thing. And it's really hard to get any work done during this time because you look at a half-hour block and you're like, what can I really get into other than email or Slack, right? We just don't have the mental capacity to be able to do some deep work during these short blocks. So one thing that you could do is try to consolidate these meetings. So, one thing that's great, a lot of companies do this, is have a no meeting day, or even on your team, you could have a day where nobody is having any meetings and this is a deep work day. Now, if that doesn't work, you can just try to schedule a no meeting day for yourself, try to move things around. This completely changed things for me when I started doing this. I mean, it's actually how I get this video out weekly. It's how I get my blog posts written weekly. It's because I do it on Mondays and that's my no meeting day. If you're not able to get a whole day of meetings free, and that's totally fine, think about how you can consolidate in other ways. So if you're, really doing your best deep work in the mornings, could you try to move most of your meetings to the afternoons when it's a time where you can be on with other people, but you don't need to be using that whole deep brain thinking work, right? So think about how you can consolidate it so that even if you have the same number of meetings, you're consolidating them together in such a way that you get bigger blocks of deep work time so that you have more time to get into the work that you have. Now, another thing to consider, especially if you are a manager, is having office hours. Office hours, just like your college professors used to, put a couple of hours on your calendar, call them office hours, tell your direct reports or other people that might be scheduling ad hoc time with you that you'd like them to schedule it during this time of the week. And that way, you're effectively getting other people to consolidate your meetings for you. Now, finally, those are the strategies I wanted to share, but it seems like I'm all down on meetings, no meetings, blah, blah, blah. And that's not true. There are some meetings that are totally valuable. If we need to get into a room all together so that we can, hash out something, really discuss something that's going to take 25 emails to discuss, otherwise, that makes sense. The other types of meetings that I think are really important to keep on our calendars that we should just consider sacrosanct are our one-on-ones with our own managers or with our direct reports. These meetings, these one-on-ones, they're often the only time that we get all week dedicated to just going through things with that person. And so we might be able to use them to get feedback, to use them to kind of have a hit list of our questions that we need answered, et cetera. Those one-on-ones are really essential for both, just the social glue of our work world, but also for being efficient in the other times. And so one-on-ones, very important to keep on the calendar, but you can still consolidate them. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you can take some of these strategies, look at your calendar, and see what you can do to help bring back some time for deep work in your own schedule.